Hello, everyone. This is the missing episode 17 of the Dresden Files subreddit because the man himself is finally here, and we're just going to jump right into it. Well, usually we start with news, but this time we're going to get it right from the source. So, do you have any news to share with us of like release dates, possibly, or anything we care about?
I'm working on the next one. I hope to have it done by the end of the summer, but it's going to depend on a bunch of different factors. Meanwhile, I've also got a couple of short story projects on the side. The first Butter story is coming out, and Sean Speakman's I think it's Unfettered 2 is the name of his anthology, and that comes out shortly. I just got a hard copy of it, so that should be out in the next few months. Let's see, I'm doing a Wild Wild West short story set in Dodge City in 1883, starring Lucio. And I'm having fun writing that because I get to play with cowboy tropes. It's all kinds of fun.
That's fantastic. Actually, we've had some of our fans requesting to suggest to you like Morgan or Hendrix as short stories. So if you need ideas, you can throw Morgan in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. But after I get done with that one, then I've just got to do like a novella, and then I can release a whole bunch of short stories as a collected anthology. So hopefully I'll get to do that in the reasonably near future as well.
And that will be briefcases, and you're saying hopefully, fingers crossed, a year or two?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all I've got to do is like the one novella, and then just a little introduction to each of the stories, and I'll be able to turn that in. That's I mean, for a writer, that's easy. That's free pie in somebody's window. You know, it's like, oh, okay, I hear this is all the work I've already done. I can make a book out of it. Cool.
I have been waiting for briefcases for years. Yes. So also, what about news about the Maggie and Mouse young adult or mid-grade story?
My sister and I are working on that. We're putting that together. As soon as I'm between houses at the moment, which always kind of, I don't know about you, that always throws me off a lot. So as soon as my new place is done and I can have a bed for my sister to sleep in, then we will have her up, and we're going to spend about 3 weeks just camping out and writing this the first book of this series. So it'll be the Dresden Files take on Hogwarts, set in St. Mark's Academy for the Gifted and Talented, which has appeared in a Dresden Files short story. But that's where all the supernatural kids go to school around the Chicago area. And the adults sort of have a hands-off rule that basically amounts to let the kids sort it out themselves. What the adults don't know is that there's this pantheon of creatures and monsters that you don't remember after you grow up. You can only interact with them when you're kids. So I'm sort of basing that on kid culture, because kid culture is incredibly tenacious and stays alive. No adult ever teaches you the lyrics to the song "Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin Laid an Egg," but every kid knows that song. All right, I mean, and we all knew it. We sang it when we were kids. The kids are still there singing it. There's this kid culture that gets kept alive from year to year. And you don't remember a lot of it after you grow up because you don't really think about it. I'm like, well, what if we did that but with monsters? Oh yeah, that would be cool. So that's sort of what we're going to be dealing with. I know that my sister and I are each taking a protagonist or a single viewpoint character, and so I'm going to be writing Maggie Dresden, who is a kid who has a lot of issues. I mean, she's got severe social anxiety. She's got real trust issues. She saw some pretty horrible things when she was little, and that sort of stuff stays with you. She actually needs a service dog, Mouse, with her in order to just kind of get through her day on a normal basis. Of course, like when people are screaming and everything's on fire, then she's completely fine. I mean, then she's normal. Like, oh yeah, this is fine. This is cool. Being
I
Harry
know this.
Dresden's
I've done
daughter,
this before.
yeah, okay. Things are horrible, but they could be worse. Being Harry Dresden's daughter, she's going to be able to deal with mayhem and chaos on a very equanimable or equanimable. Oh, it's one of those words I can't say because I can only read it. Anyway, she gets along with it just fine.
Awesome.
A quick follow-up on that I'm curious about is Maggie considered magical since she's going to the special school, or is that just because she's Dresden's daughter?
It's mainly because she's Dresden's daughter, and there's truce there, so she's going to be in less danger there than she would anywhere else. It's a boarding school. She's going to be there during the week. She's going to spend summers with Dad, and Dresden's be able to look in on her on the weekends and so on. But Dresden, if he appears at all, will be kind of a character in the background somewhere, not really doing a whole lot. This is going to be more about her and about her growing up, and it's going to be the Dresden Files take on Hogwarts. So we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be cool, but we'll see how it goes.
That sounds amazing. All right, so we're going to pivot a little bit. You've been expanding out into different forms of media besides the written word, specifically the comics and the TV show. There have been some rumors about a new TV show, possibly an animated series. Is there anything on that, or is that totally off base?
There's rumors about an animated series?
Yeah.
Because okay, cool, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure Alex is the only one who's supporting this rumor about the animated series.
Oh no, I'd be down with that. That'd be fun. But so far, no. Animated series, it really seems have very much their own culture and still are in a position where basically you very much got to have your own passion put behind a project to really drive it through. I think animated series more than other TV series are like that. You've got to have somebody who's willing to work the crazy hours and put in the insane labor, and that sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever watched the background special for the guys who did Last Airbender, but they were doing like insane levels of work, and basically they would just sort of they would only get out from their offices long enough to go to Comic-Con and be bewildered by the number of fans they had. And then it was right back to work, and sleeping on the floor under desks when they were at end of shifts and stuff like that. And when you've got to put that kind of labor in to make something happen, that needs to be your passion, your idea. I really think is what needs to support that. What you need to support that. So, I don't know if it'll happen with kind of an extended property that started somewhere else. But if there's somebody out there who's like, oh my God, I really want to make this happen, then I guess maybe that could happen someday. I'm certainly open to the concept.
Got it.
As far as another series goes, it's possible. We'll see. I mean, the rights are I have the rights again, so if somebody does want to do TV with it, that's completely doable. I would love to see something happen on something like Netflix. Would be kind of my dream home for a Dresden Files TV series, because they've got so much money and they've got such a different attitude about how they're going to sell this series. They're willing to be a little bit more patient. They don't have to have an immediate turnaround in profit in order for a series to be a success with them. They're willing to invest a little bit of time, which is why Breaking Bad went over so big was because they did invest that time. So that would be the dream place for it to happen. We'll see if anything like that ever goes.
I'm holding out hope.
Right. Yeah, when I started reading them, I was definitely on board with HBO taking a crack at it, because I think Game of Thrones had just started when I started reading them, and then Netflix has definitely become a power player in the last couple of years, so it would be awesome to see that. So,
with Netflix over HBO, they could both do a great job, but the plus side on Netflix is I get to see all of them at once.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's the whole thing.
For
your Xbox gets to come on and say, shouldn't you be outside doing something? And saying, do you mean to be watching this much TV? It's like, yes, Xbox, shut up. Let me get to the next episode.
Let me watch some more.
Yeah.
So keeping with future Dresden Files, do you have a working title for Book 18 yet?
Let's see. Book 17 is Peace Talks. Book 18 is Mirror Mirror.
I think 16 is Peace Talk, 17 is Mirror Mirror, right?
17 is Mirror Mirror, 18 is... which one is that one? No, I don't have a title for it yet. I'm still working on it.
Hey, I don't blame you. We want Peace Talks first, obviously, but we had to ask.
18 is going to be the professional wrestling episode. So, that's...
Okay.
Yeah, the professional wrestling episode. Look,
that's fantastic, because that's plenty of spoilers for me.
Can you tell us anything about Book 18?
Yeah, it's really tough being a classical deity in today's world, because you just don't have as much. You don't get as much worship or profit to fuel your immortality as you used to, because people just aren't as sincere about it as they used to be. I mean, they used to kill animals and everything, and it was awesome. Nowadays, you're much better off being a sports hero or a rock star, because you have people that worship you when you're in that position at this point. And one of the ways that you can really get going is in professional wrestling. So there's a lot of professional wrestlers that over the years, the various gods will switch in and out of different roles as professional wrestlers, which is why you see the same storylines over and over again over the years if you pay attention. But there's going to have been a murder, and they're going to need somebody to investigate it and to negotiate this crime between a bunch of gods, and they're going to have to find somebody who is of sufficient status and sufficient intrepidity that they will do an honest investigation, but also somebody who is enough on the supernatural side that they'll be able to actually be competent enough to get things done. So they're going to look around and be like, "Oh, Mab, we need to borrow your knight. He looks like he'd be perfect for this."
I guess this also explains the rise of reality TV.
Yeah, it could, but that's more a bunch of wannabes who just wanted the attention and to increase their status. It's not really the real establishment gods look down on those people and they're like, "Oh, I remember him when he was just a spirit in a river. Now he's all jumped up with these cooking shows, like that, so."
Nice. So I've always considered myself decently tall at around 6'4", but Dresden comes in at moderately tall at 6'9". Why the hell is everybody so damn tall? And it seems like Rashid's even taller than Dresden, so clearly 6'9's not even the ceiling in your world.
It's for two reasons. One is because Dresden was physically based off my buddy Charlie Winkless, who I hung out with a lot in college. Charlie was a programmer who worked for the U.S. Marshals. He was British. He was 6'9", kind of a big kind of storky, lean, dark-haired, dark-eyed, really, really deep, resonant voice, British accent. Like, we would go to the movies, and he would get up and go for popcorn and come back with like 2 phone numbers. I mean, he was that kind of guy. He would kind of like wear the leather jacket with his Marshal's badge on the shoulder. And he was pretty cool, and he's a fine nerd to this day. So Dresden was partially based on Charlie, because I walked down some dark alleys with Charlie, and he was an extremely comforting presence to have with you. And then Dresden was also based off of one of the physical models I used for him was Sherlock, and Sherlock is also tall and storky like that in the original stories. So that's where it came from. And then after you've got the guy who's that big, you've got to have other people who are bigger than him, because otherwise he's always beating up people who are littler than him, and that's not fun. So I've gotten to compensate for that a lot, because Dresden is very much is not the big fish in his pond, and he never was, and he's never gonna be. He's the guy who's going to have to survive on his wits as well as his other resources. But I wrote him tall like that to get started, because I always wanted to be tall, and it just never happened. When I was a kid, I would pray to God, I want to be 5'11". I don't think that's too much to ask, because my dad was like 5'7", and my mom was 5'2", and I wound up at 5'9". But I didn't think 5'11" was unreasonable, and it was an unfair universe that I wound up at 5'9". So I gave myself an extra 12 inches. And it's there. We'll put that on the character, and he can do that. Of course, now my son is 4 inches taller than me, and is awesome and everything. So he got all the things that I wanted as a kid. It's like, okay, at least I got to see the next generation get what I wanted, even if I didn't get it. So
I'm thinking, you tell really good stories. Like when you tell the Amazon jungle shaman story I've seen on YouTube, like you tell it really good, really engaging, and your other stories too. Does that go hand in hand with being able to write good stories, to be a good storyteller in person, or is that just another skill you have?
It's a different it's a different thing to tell a story to a live person who's right there with you than it is to write a story in a book. I mean, they're different arts. There's some things that carry over, but for the most part, it mostly comes from being a DM for way too long.
That was the second thing I was thinking.
Yeah, that's the other part of storytelling. Also, when my kid was little, at bedtime, we would read him books. But eventually, we ran out of books and we didn't have any more. So he was like, "Tell me a story." So I told him a very fine story about a young knight named JJ who had to fight a giant, and so then he wanted another story. So I had to make up another one and another one and another one. And so I had to keep telling him these stories, and they were always stories about how the little guy had to use his brains to overcome various challenges that he faced, and Jay loved those when he was little. And he would always ask for another one, and he would always remember if I got a detail wrong from a previous story as well. He's a very demanding audience. And so that was kind of where some of that came from. And then, I do a lot of DMing, so there's a lot of storytelling that happens there.
I just started DMing myself from my friends because I watched Critical Role. They've been playing for a long time, and I thought the DMing looked fun when I watched Matthew Mercer do it, and now I've gotten into it as well. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I've carried all my all this writing stuff over to the DMing, so now I try and cliffhang the end of every session and leave people going, "Oh my God, you're stopping there!" And that's sort of my modus at this point. So.
Well, it seems to work. So, we heard a story that when you were writing Skin Game that you watched a lot of Ocean's 11. Did you have a similar inspiration when you were writing Peace Talks?
Well, Peace Talks is right now I'm writing Peace Talks with a lot of Babylon 5 in the background. I've got a lot of that running in the background when I'm writing Peace Talks. So that was always that is, in my opinion, one of the best science fiction shows that's been done so far. I've really enjoyed the hell out of it. So I love the fact that you're watching that show and you get about 2 seasons in and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I thought I was watching DS9. Suddenly I realized this is Lord of the Rings in space. And it's like, oh, okay, that's different. And it has always been an inspiration to me as a storytelling piece. Especially as a story that would put out seeds in early parts of the story that you didn't see until much, much later. Babylon 5 did that when no other TV shows were really doing it. Stuff that comes out in season 1 that you don't see the conclusion to until season 5, and that's just kind of unheard of in TV. So I've really enjoyed that.
Cool. So this question's a bit out of nowhere, but one of our fans is very, very insistent that we ask you if you identify as a boobs man or an ass man.
Yes.
That's what I told him you'd say.
There's too much beauty out there. You can't focus on one thing. I'm one of those people that thinks that when you think of the definition of beauty, you start with women because that's what is the most beautiful thing in the world. So there's no sense in focusing on one thing because there's going to be something that is going to be intensely beautiful about just about any woman you look at. So why be latched in on one characteristic? Nah, there's too much. It's too good.
What did Fairfax receive at Bianca's party, or will we ever find out what Fairfax received at Bianca's party?
Oh, what Fairfax received at Bianca's party?
Yeah.
I can go ahead and tell you right now. He got golden gems. It was not like a ton of golden gems. It was several $1 million worth.
Was it infected?
What's that?
Was it infected?
Oh well, I'm not gonna tell you that. Come on. Please. That's what he got given though. He got given treasure. When you're a dragon who likes his hoard, getting more treasure is always. That's a tip in the future. When you're showing up to a party, you need to get a gift for a dragon. You don't know what he's gonna want. Adding stuff to his hoard is you're never gonna be a faux pas by doing that. That's always the safe call, and with dragons, that's probably a smart attitude to take, is to to go with the safe call. So.
And speaking of dragons, have you heard of a book called Nice Dragons Finish Last?
I've not read that one.
Yeah, because I just finished those 2 books, and there's also like there's a lot of horde and everything, and there's this one nice dragon who doesn't have anything, and all the other dragons don't understand him. He's really weird. He doesn't want a horde.
Yeah, you would so. How do you identify as a dragon if you don't want a horde? Oh my gosh, you're not going to fit in society anywhere. Yeah.
Okay, I'm laughing hysterically.
That's like you don't want to fall in love. Who doesn't want to fall in love? Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Okay. Just so you know, the reason why the questions are also random is because we have a list of them, so we're kind of just going down the list.
That's fine.
This question comes from the Dresden Files meetup at the Kineticon convention here in Connecticut.
Okay.
Will we find out more about the Jade Court and when?
We might see one of their agents get involved in the big trilogy at the end. I don't know if we'll ever actually see them full-on involved because they're isolationists and they're serious about it. They're sincere. We might see a little bit more about who they are, but as far as them actually getting involved, they're very much withdrawn from the world. They kind of have their own little existence going, and they like it that way. So.
Damn, I had a theory that we might see a representative at peace talks, but that just got shut down.
Yeah, well, maybe later, unless there's been one there all along. Bum, bum, bum. Which is yeah, okay. I'm not going to say any more about that.
Okay, this next question is very important to me.
Okay.
When are we going to see Mavra again?
Oh, 19?
Yeah. Why so long? Jesus.
Oh no, I'm sorry. We'll definitely see her in Mirror Mirror. She's a fast ally of Dresden's in Mirror Mirror. So.
But what book was she last in, Alex? I'm sure you remember.
Deadbeat. She was in Deadbeat, and then she went away, and we never see her again. But bullshit.
But she's scared of Dresden. He's a scary dude.
Bullshit.
Well, not only that, but she's a Black Court vampire. Time does not really factor to them. So we're seeing books and books and books, and years have gone by because we're just humans. To her, it's like it's been an afternoon. Maybe she should go mess with Dresden again. Maybe she shouldn't. But I try and think with all these different supernatural creatures. I always try and get into their head enough to understand. Well, how are they different from humans? How does their life change the way that they view reality and view the universe? And when you're a Black Court vampire who essentially just gets to stay alive for as long as you want, how does that change how you look at things? And time is a much different thing to an immortal or a virtual immortal than it is to one of us.
Another quick follow-up on her being immortal, just because I just got that thought. Like, do you know, and do you want to tell us exactly like when she's from, how old she is, like what century?
Mavra's not too old for a Black Court vampire. I think she's about 600, if I remember. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, which are in Kansas City at the moment. So, but she's about 600. I know that.
Nice. Keeping on with trying to see some people, we've caught on that you don't tend to just insert a drive-by character. Even when you say that you tried to, he winds up coming back again and being quite a bit more important to the story. Butters! So, are we going to see Agent Tilly again?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
He's got some mentions here, but Tilly, I had to get him into the story a little bit earlier on. For when things are happening on more than the Chicago level later in the story. There's been some hints of various characters who are sort of expanding their power base, and they're doing that for a reason, and that'll become evident a little bit later on. So.
Actually, I actually like Agent Tilly. He was a very reasonable FBI agent, unlike Karen's ex.
Oh, that guy.
What about Tara West? Will we see her again?
Yes, probably not until the big trilogy at the end, though.
Okay. Will we see Chauncey or I can never say it. Chanza. Yes. Will we see him again?
I don't know. I haven't thought about him in a good long time. I mean, he's a demon that's actually working in hell. Yeah, I don't see how we can avoid seeing him in the second book of the big trilogy at the end. So that's the one that's entitled Hell. That's the one that's entitled Hell's Bells. So
I actually really enjoyed him as a character. Definitely one of my more favorite ones. That was like kind of a one shot.
Same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that he was in Full Moon, I think. I mean, he was, or maybe Grave Peril. He was in one of the first three, I know.
I think he was in Full Moon.
I think it was Full Moon, because after that we went with the talking Cabbage Patch doll after that, when Harry needed a supernatural informant. So yeah, I was thrashing and flailing around a lot those first 2 or 3 books, trying to understand how to tell a good story. So I mean, bear in mind that I wrote those first 2 and the first Alara book at about the same time. Those were all right around 96, 97, 98 was when those got written. So it was a good long while still before I was going to get published, and you know, I didn't really have a beta reading group the way I kind of eventually segued into. So those were very different books for me than later books in the series. So there was a lot more of, let me just grab a character and use them. And writing things. Why did I write that? I've got no idea. I'll just have to make sure it pays off later, you know, like that.
So what happened to Rudolph? Why did he have such a sudden personality change? Or when will we find out what happened to him if you're not comfortable telling us the details?
In Skin Game. Or, I mean, not in Skin Game, in Peace Talks. Rudolph... yeah, well, Rudolph had bad things happen to him, and he was one of these people who just cannot handle the issue of the supernatural. And so there's a lot of different ways you can react when you're confronted with something like that. And even when you have people in real life run into things that are weird and not really easily explained, there's several different ways you can react to it. And one of the ways you react to it is with complete denial. And Rudolph sort of went off on the complete denial track, which is why he started climbing so fast was because other people who you know, they want a guy like Rudolph to ride herd on special investigations, because then they can get rid of anybody in special investigations at any time, because they'll be able to get Rudolph to say they believe in vampires, you know, like, oh, okay, they don't need to be an officer in Chicago PD now. So
you mean that it was just normal human cognitive dissonance rather than something nefarious like mind magic or nemesis?
Oh, regular stupid people stuff is so much more dangerous and destructive than any amount of supernatural mind controlling forces. So yeah, I mean, as far as Rudolph goes, he's just a dummy, and it's way more, that's you know, really that makes a lot more trouble in life for everybody than any amount of evil conspiracy. So.
Okay. When will we find out, or will we find out who Cowell and Kumari are?
Eventually.
I was about to say, of course we'll find out, but...
Yes, eventually.
Okay,
I'll get to
it.
Okay. Will we have met them before? Will we have seen them before? As another identity?
Why do you possibly think I would give you an answer to that question?
Really? I mean, maybe I just caught you off guard, and you'll be like, yeah, sure, you met them. Like, oh, wait, shit.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well played. Good try.
Yeah, gotta try, right?
I understand. Although I've declared myself an unreliable narrator several times, so.
Yeah. Andreas, do you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that? Mind tricks do not work here. Only money.
Only money.
All right, so a couple of questions about Chandler, because speaking of Jedi, like the White Council, when they're not being assholes, are kind of like the Jedi in the Dresden verse. We want to know more about them. What kind of magic does Chandler specialize in?
Um, Chandler, Chandler stuff. He does a lot of divination and a lot of stuff that is involved with time, which puts him in a very finicky spot and kind of a very high-profile spot on the council. It's one reason why he's a warden, is so they can keep an eye on him, because that's where his specialty is. So he can actually do things to screw with the flow of time, to look back in time and find things out, and occasionally to look forward in time and see things. Although that's very unreliable because of the whole free will nonsense.
Okay.
But that's kind of where he lies. He's an information gatherer for the most part. And he can do, he can accomplish a lot of other things that a lot of wizards can't. So he's not as much of as a punch you in the face wizard as a lot of the wardens are. But he's a really, really useful one, which is why he's got a lot of status among the young wardens. Because he's got access to what the old wizards really think is valuable, which is information.
He's like a warden spook, kind of like the angel.
Yeah, he's sort of he's more of a detective, more of a fact finder. When they want to know where to apply the muscle, he's the guy. He's the go-to guy among the young crowd to find out. We need to know more about the situation. How do we punch this guy in the nose the best? Okay, let me see what I can find out about it.
So it makes sense why they've got him on watch. Combination of his specialty, but also keeping him close so they can keep an eye on him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he's at headquarters. Because he's always close to breaking one of the laws whenever he's messing with time. So they want to make sure that if he does start trying to build himself a TARDIS, they're going to have somebody there to shut him down.
Nice.
But it was really suck being like Chandler or like Molly being born with an inclination towards a certain aspect of magic that has been forbidden by the White Council.
It's true. Yeah, it's awful for those people. Just awful.
What man would make a universe like this? Torture people this way? I mean, who would do this?
Yeah, exactly.
So, just lastly, for Chandler's side, it seems like he's always walking around with his cane. Is that his focus then? Like everybody else has a staff, he just uses the cane? Or does he have something else?
Yeah, he likes the cane. Plus, he watched a lot of Avengers. So. It's not his fault. He's got the bowler, he's got the cane, off he goes.
And for director Alex's sake, that's the British Avengers, correct? Not the Marvel Avengers. So.
Not Marvel Avengers.
What is the British Avengers? I don't think I know that.
It was kind of a '60s campy, over the top Cold War spy show, and it starred Aristides. Oh, I forget what his last name was, and Emma Peel. So basically they were British super spies, and they had their own half-hour show. It was sort of on around about the same time as the Alan West Batman. It was sort of on the air around it.
They had a remake of this into a movie like some years ago.
Yeah, with Sean Connery in a teddy bear costume. Yeah, there were parts of it that were sort of disastrous as a remake, but parts of it were very good as a remake. So.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Now I know what he looked like. Now I have a better mental picture of what Chandler looks like, actually.
Right.
So, one question about Cinder Spires, at least. Is it a slant world? Is it like on Earth in some form, or is it a completely different planet, dimension, whatever?
I'm not going to tell you that. It's more fun if you don't know.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's just my own theory, which Jim doesn't have to answer. I think it's on Earth. That would be more interesting. That's the story. Later on, they go down, they find stuff from our civilization or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, I don't know. Stuff from our civilization vanishes so fast. Did you ever watch After People? I think, or After Humans, maybe. It was a week-long little mini-series that they did on the History Channel to examine what's left, 20 or 10, 20, 50, 100, and 1,000 years after humanity suddenly vanishes from the face of the earth. And really, after 90 or 100 years, there's not very much still standing, and after 1,000 years, there's just nothing left. You would find bits of old plastic, like the Hoover Dam. The pyramids would still be here for like another 10,000 years. They're kind of a long-term project. But so much of the rest of the stuff just goes away without people there to maintain it. I mean, it's really it's a very humbling show to watch. It sort of makes you feel very tiny in the face of the universe, which I think is kind of a good healthy thing to feel once in a while.
So my next question, back to Dresden Files, is when will we ever find the details of the deal that Margaret made with Leah? What the hell did she pay Leah for all of what Leah has done?
Oh, let me think about it. Oh, right. Eventually, maybe, whenever I want to have Harry and Leah slug it out. Oh my gosh, because that would be awful. So there you go.
And what book would that be in?
That's a big one. That will have to be late in the series. That'll have to probably be in the trilogy.
Empty Night?
Yeah, it would have to come. I'm not sure exactly where I'd put it in the trilogy. I haven't gotten all the events for each book laid out exactly where they're going to go. I kind of know. I've got a big batch of things that I know were going to happen, but I don't know exactly which part of the story they're going to happen in yet.
Okay. I thought maybe the title might have been a hint.
Oh well, no. I mean, but that's just more. That's more reflection of there's a reason that there are swear words. That all these things that they use in the entire series are curse words. Stars and Stones, Hell's Bells, Empty Night. There's a reason that those are what they are.
Is there a reason Empty Night is related to the White Court specifically? It seems like to be a White Court curse.
Well, I mean, it's we hear it the most from Thomas, but it's not like they're the only ones who use it. It's just that there's just not all that many monsters that Harry talks to in conversation on a regular basis. Beyond witty banter before a fight. Him and Thomas talk a lot, so you get a lot more of a window from Thomas. But I mean, Harry very rarely talks to Mab, except when you see him talk to Mab in the books, for example. But he and Thomas are around all the time, so they're colloquial. They see each other a couple of times a week at least.
So let's see. Bob can't track the Shroud because he's on a different wavelength, is what's said in the book. But could Bonnie track the Shroud through her parentage since she's created from the essence of a fallen angel?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, right now, Bonnie is she's at that age of kittens and puppies where everything is so new that they have to find out about everything, and when they're busy investigating things, they can't hear what you're saying to them. They go nose deaf and they go curiosity deaf. Not that cats do all that much listening anyway. But I mean, at the moment, she's still too unformed. Possibly in the future, that would be something that she could get involved with. Although that would sort of be announcing that she's ready to throw herself into the ring alongside angels, and that's not something that you want to do. That's not a long-term survival strategy there. Those are some mean players at that level of the game. So they don't really pull too many punches.
Okay, I actually have a bit of a quick follow-up on that because I just got to thinking when I saw this question with the Shroud that we know that there are two Shrouds. There's the one from Book 5, and then there's the real Shroud that we see in Skin Games. How much magic can faith create in an object? Like, just because people believe in it, how much the power can be invested in it?
Enormous amounts of power can be invested in objects just from people believing in it, as long as the belief is sincere belief. For example, I know that at the end of this series, I'm going to have to get Dresden a hat before it's all said and done. I hear they've got this fedora in the Smithsonian, and that will have significant power in the Dresden Files universe. It's Indiana Jones's fedora. Come on, you are a daring do hero if you're wearing that thing.
Yeah, but that hat belongs in a museum, so.
Yeah, Indy kept saying that, and yet he was hardly ever in a museum. When you really stop and think about it.
Now I got to thinking of Ezreal from League of Legends. Yes, he said you belong in a museum.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I can ever find a way to have Harry say his power level's over 9,000 though. So.
Oh man.
That's one of my favorite memes. Okay, how did Papa Wraith or Father Wraith, Thomas's father, how did he get his connection to He Who Walks Behind, or some kind of outsider?
Did I connect him with? Oh, or you're just some kind of outsider. There's
Yes.
other outsiders. I don't want to reveal that until later in the story. It's not really terribly exciting, but it's not fun to hear about it on an interview.
Okay.
A bit related to Papa Wraith, I'm pretty sure we never told his first name. Is that intentional? Do you know what his first name is?
Yes. I know what his first name is, but none of his kids do.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, he doesn't go giving his name out to people. You crazy? That's insane. That's one of those tactics of courtesy that wizards developed in order to be able to have more power when they were getting society going, back in BC days. Because then you introduce somebody, you give them your name, and now the wizard has your name, and that was a big deal.
How old is Papa Wraith?
He's a couple of thousand, and he's got 2,000 years worth of paranoia kind of built up. Plus, I mean, he's just been absolutely bonkers the past 30 years or so. So he's hardly functional as a vampire or as a he's getting to where he's not even going to be functional as a figurehead for much longer. So that's going to be a problem for Lara to deal with. We'll get to that in the future as well.
That sounds fun. When will we find out what he has in his personal library?
Who has in his personal library?
Lord Wraith.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Now I have to go back to that.
See, I told you it wasn't important. I told you it was not important.
It sounded really important in Blood Rights, and then it was just never mentioned again, which seems like a giant hint.
Okay. All right, Alex, tell me what you're talking about here. So.
In Blood Rights, Thomas talking to Harry, finding out that they're brothers, and Thomas says that he has a personal library and no one is allowed into it. And then kind of in the same conversation as when we find out that Margaret was with Lord Wraith and then she left. It seemed like it was connected to Margaret's leaving and that it's really important. But then we never hear about it again.
That. Oh, yeah, I mean, Wraith, okay, there's kind of a long game going on at the Dresden Files. And Papa Wraith has been involved in the last couple of cycles that's gone on, and he's been trying to educate himself about it. And he meant to be a player in it. This time it came around, but he sort of got involved with Maggie Dresden the Elder, and that screwed him over. So I mean, you'll get to find out about it. It's not really all that dramatic in terms of as it applies to Wraith himself. But so it's a story, it's bedrock story for the end part of the series that will come out at that time. I mean, basically, Lara's got his library now, and she knows everything he knows. So explains a lot of her actions. What she's learned there explains why she's been doing what she's been doing, which is expanding her power base enormously.
That's intimidating.
Well. Maybe depending on if Lara is really all that decent a person, or a terrifying monster. It's sort of hard to say at this point.
Fair enough. So once we get through the books and once we catch up to the latest, I always tell my friends that they've graduated to a Dresden Files scholar because now you get to speculate with the best of everybody. So, so what's your favorite conspiracy theory that you've heard from a fan?
I don't know. I try not to listen to too many of them. I know that various different people have put together essentially what I'm doing. But they haven't connected the dots of each individual crazy theory. So they'll have 90% of it will be wingnut territory, but they'll have this certain part of the story where they're just bang on, and then somebody else will have another part of the story, and then somebody else has another part of the story over here, but they haven't connected yet. So that's the internet is working against me because now all the readers can get together and talk and speculate. But I've read so many of them. I don't know about if I have if there's any crazy favorites, because I can only see the story that's in my head. I mean, it all sort of exists there. The only problem is getting it written is the hard part. Is getting it from here over here to the keyboard. So I don't really think of it that way. I do like I do kind of enjoy the alternate Dresden universes that sort of spin off in my head when I do hear a crazy theory. That's fun. But I just kind of enjoy telling the story with all of it. I like the characters. I like the world at this point. I mean, I never really meant to get this involved with it, but here I am. So.
A quick follow-up on that. I remember listening to you say in some of your Q&As that the RPG guys guessed too good, too close to what you were planning when they were writing the RPG. Is there any of the things they guessed that has happened in the book that you can tell us about? Where they were pretty dead on?
Not yet. But they had predicted things about 2 books down the line a little bit too closely for my comfort. And I had to be like, no, back off of that one, guys. Back off of that one.
So yeah, just a quick on the theories thing. Was there a theory that when you heard it was just so laughably wrong? Just it was ridiculous.
I've seen some crazy ones out there. Leah's actually Harry's mother was one of them. I mean, there's a bunch of them, and some of them don't even make sense. Harry is actually Merlin aging backwards. Was one of them, which explains why he gets less sophisticated and more childish as he moves ahead, which I don't think is true, but that was this person's particular argument was that Merlin aging backwards is Harry Dresden.
That's ridiculous. We all know Mac is Merlin.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah.
Exactly.
No, but reveal who Mac is. That'll be part of the big trilogy at the end too.
All right. In a previous episode, we were trying to figure out what McCoy did to Madrid when he was listing off things they did, like Krakatoa and Tunguska. And I guessed it was an earthquake, but that earthquake actually happened in Portugal. So what did he do to Madrid?
I think there was a plague or a fire. Oh my gosh! You're setting the Wayback Machine for so far back in my professional career. Was it a fire? It was a fire. Or no, it was. There was a bombing in the Spanish Civil War. It was not a bombing. Is that? I think that's what I remember. I'd have to go dig up my notes again.
So they were all of them were related to real life stuff you looked up and researched. That could be something that happened.
Yeah, real life destruction that had an explanation other than what is written down in the history book.
Okay, I was looking for things like 300 years ago, and all of the Madrid bombings on Wikipedia, the earliest one is in 1974, so now I know where to look for. Yeah.
Okay. It's all been stuff that's happened since he took the Black Staff, and that only happened in 1884, 1885, somewhere in there. That's how long he's been holding.
We actually talked about this like an episode or two ago about Blackstaff. Is that an office appointed by the senior council, or does the new Blackstaff or the Blackstaff get to choose his successor?
The Blackstaff chooses his successor.
That's what I was that was what I was championing, if I remember right.
That just made a bunch of fans really, really happy.
Okay, so this is a, we totally understand if you can't answer this because the books are probably all like your children and it's hard to say what your favorite is. But whenever a new guest comes on the show, as we often have new guests, we ask them what are their 3 favorite books and their favorite characters. But if you can't answer, that's totally okay.
Let's see. The book I hate the most is whichever book I'm working on at the moment. So I'll throw that one in. My favorite books have been Deadbeat was probably the first one, because that was the first one that went to hardback, and we had Zombie T-Rex and whatnot, and I really thought that was the book where I really got my game on, was Deadbeat. Changes, because I've been looking forward to writing that thing for so long and setting up so many things for it. And I also liked Cold Days because I got to do a lot of reveals on stuff that I'd been sitting around for a long time. And when you're a writer, just sitting on that stuff, it's just like, oh, I want to tell everyone everything, but I can't. And so when you finally get to it, it's like, oh, thank God, finally I get to do this.
Imagine how we feel.
Well, the trilogy's like that too, because there's all these things that I'm getting lined up for the for the big story at the end that I'm looking forward to writing. And it's like, I just want to get to the kaiju already. But anyway.
Can you tell us who your favorite character is?
It's usually like the little characters on the side, characters that don't have a huge necessarily a huge role. I mean, I love writing Dresden and Murphy and all the core characters, but I really enjoy of the big characters that I really enjoy. Probably Mab is the one I enjoy the most because she has such an alien mindset, and I love writing in it. She usually means 2 or 3 different things in every line of dialogue that I'm thinking about, except when she gets exasperated with Dresden, and then she can mean one thing, when she's talking to him. But otherwise, she usually couches a lot of her words in ways that can be taken with multiple meanings. So that's fun. I liked writing Hades.
Hades was pretty awesome.
That was a fun character to write. Because I can kind of write this guy who is basically the reasonable guy in the insane family. Like if he had his own sitcom, he would be the star. Of the normal guy just trying to get through life with all this madness happening all around him constantly, and not really wanting to get involved in their drama, but okay, fine, yeah, she was kidnapped, good, okay.
Arrested Development Greek Gods version.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just amazing.
Just one normal guy just struggling to just live a normal, happy life. Be responsible, do his job, take care of the things that need taken care of, and yet his family keeps screwing everything up because they're all complete neurotic weirdos.
I can just see Hades now looking down to that brown paper bag with the I don't know what I was expecting that from the rest of the one. I think it is. Yeah.
Oh God, that's how Dresden's going to get involved. Hades is going to be like, well, why don't you get him? I've met him. He seems like a reasonable guy, Oh, well, if Hades, if Hades thinks so, yeah, okay, get that guy in here on this case. But anyway, yeah, you just never want to get involved in a dispute between the Greek gods. You just don't. I mean, it never winds up well for the mortal, never ever. And generally just horrible things follow. But anyway, but yeah, so I enjoyed writing Hades. I enjoyed this, other characters on the side. I like making up. It's like, oh wait a minute, I need to make up a few new Denarians for this one, and then I can make anything I want. Kind of horrible thing I want out of my head. There, it's a new Denarian right there. So that's a lot of fun. Nicodemus is fun to write. Getting that little human moment with Deirdre was fun for me in Skin Game, where she got to sit and talk with Harry for a minute, and you got to see exactly, that's what several thousand years of crazy looks like, is Deirdre. In real life, insanity doesn't look like insanity. It just looks like somebody who's focused on trying to get something. And man, that was fun writing that. Goodman Gray was a character I enjoyed the hell out of.
I assume
he's
we'll
the
see
character
him
that
again.
Yeah, definitely, and he's also, he'll be back in the future, and he's also somebody that if I was going to write a spin-off series, that he would be a good character to center a spin-off on after the Dresden Files is done. If I still want to play in the world, I don't know, I might be done with that and ready to move on to other places by then, but we'll see.
Speaking of characters, Binder was quickly becoming one of my favorites. I really enjoyed him in Skin Games. Will we see him again?
Maybe if I can cast Mark, what's his name, to play him. The guy for Crowley from Supernatural. That's Binder.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly. That is Binder.
Yeah, that's him. But yeah, but I mean, he's such a. I mean, he's kind of a small-time thug. I mean, he's got some things that he can do. He's a one-trick pony. He can do his trick really well, but he's a one-trick pony. And he's definitely. I mean, he kept away from that with money. He's going to be on an island somewhere after this.
He's just such an enjoyable character. I really like him.
If Dresden needs him and has to go to a tropical island to recruit him, Crowley's just Binder's just gonna be like, no, and he's gonna pick up his drink and just start walking away, going no, over his shoulder.
Very what's the Ectomancer's name?
Mort Lindquist.
Yeah, very Mort Lindquisty.
Yeah, very Morty. Well, those are people who don't want to be involved in the supernatural stuff, and arguably they're smarter than Harry is. So, not that Harry has a lot of choice at this point, but yeah, I mean, it really that kind of world is the one that if you involve yourself with it, it's just going to bring you grief. Oh my gosh.
Are you working on the next Cinder Spires book now? Like while you're writing Dresden, trying to switch between them?
Oh God, no! I can't do that at all. Horrible things happen, and the same things start happening to characters in both series when I try and write concurrently. I can't do that.
Is that the next book after Peace Talks you're going to work on?
At this point, yes. Because I should finish Peace Talks before my new place is done, hopefully, and then I'll start on the next Cinder Spires. The Olympian Affair is the next Cinder Spires book, so that'll be a lot of fun too.
Well, the book series about McCoy during the Indian War, you have talked about maybe wanting to write that. Do you think that will happen, like when you're done with the Dresden Files, like after the big three, or before?
Maybe that would be a ton of fun. I would love the hell out of that. It would also mean that I had to do a bunch of research, which I love, but which really cuts down on my production when I go and start learning about things. But I love doing it. I'm kind of a history buff. I got way too much Roman history going on when I was doing the Alara books, and I've been reading Napoleonic history for as sort of inspiration for the Cinder Spires. Dresden Files, I don't read a whole lot of history, a little bit, but not a whole lot.
You mostly do folklore there to get creatures.
For that I do a lot of research on modern day paranormal stuff. So I'll go out and read up on Bigfoot or Dogman, UFOs, weird things that happen at the Skinwalker Ranch, stuff like that. And that's kind of my research stuff for Dresden Files.
I just realized I have the perfect person to ask this question. Now that you said Bigfoot, in the spoiler chapter for Peace Talks, they talk about how the baby is draining life from Justine, and that's why a lot of White Court mothers, human mothers, don't survive.
Well,
but
technically, the baby isn't. It's the hunger that's attaching itself to the baby. But go ahead.
yeah, this is just like from how I understood it before with Thomas's little sister. The hunger is in there, but it's like completely dormant until the teen years, and then it needs to feed and wake up. So I was just wondering how it's feeding as a baby. I just thought it was dormant.
It's doing the same thing the baby is. It's draining resources from the mother in order to create enough of a body in order to create enough essence to sustain itself on its own until later.
And then it kind of goes dormant until
teen years. It's not really doing much until teenage years and the vampire starts feeding.
Okay, that's I was just wondering about that, but that makes sense the way you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good fodder. So to kind of wrap it up, we have a future episode we've been discussing vampires, and I kind of had what I thought was an epiphany and just kind of was going to run it past you. So whether directly or indirectly, it seems like there are some decent cultural, the word escapes me now, but there are some good references that you pulled for the three courts. Black Court's obviously Bram Stoker, like straight up, because chicken and the egg syndrome, you've got, the Black Court existed before the books and was kind of a guide to kill them from the White Court. With the Red Court, it occurred to me that they were pretty similar to the Dusk Till Dawn vampires, and just wanted to see if that was on purpose or if that's just, No,
that was exactly the inspiration for the Red Court, was Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy because I'm like, well, wait a minute, they're in Mexico, like they're there's something underneath the skin mask, etc. So with that in mind, I thought I had something for the White Court, but it escapes me now. So what is their...
That's easy. That's Twilight.
You're banned.
Thank God I wrote before Twilight, or that you could make an argument for that. They were more the Anne Ricey touchy-feely vampires.
Nice.
The ones that the White Court were the ones who were more the tragic, lonely vampires. The emo vampires, if you will.
I love that song.
Because there's three. I mean, there's three different kinds of vampires in vampire folklore. There's the horrible corpse. There's the sexy seducer, and then there's the blood-sucking fiend. And the vampires sort of fall into one of those categories. There's one other one. Which is kind of where the Jade Court is from, but I'll let you research on your own which kind of vampire that is, and then because then you can go learn about that, and then you'll know more about the Jade Court and how they kill people and what they feed on.
All right, we have run through all of our questions that we had prepared and some extra actually, and I think we're about at an hour probably over, so we're gonna end it now.
Okay,
I don't want it to be over.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. I'm sure this is going to be the best episode that we've ever done. I guess we can all say bye now.
If you want to have me back sometime, feel free to invite me.
That would be awesome.
Standing invitation. Anytime you want to join.
Anytime.
Well, I tell you what. After the next book comes out, why don't we set something up, and then that way we'll have a bunch of new questions to be asked.
Yes.
Sounds awesome.
Dream come true. All right. I've been reminded very pushily that we have other podcasts that we need to plug, including High Fantasy, which is mine, when I talk about writing and fantasy and some sci-fi thrown in there as well. And with Jacob of 42 and the other rest of Broken Jars, Alex has Shylock's Gaming, and he talks about video games, I think. I don't know. I've not listened to it. There's 42 in the Broken Jars network as well, and another guy has Dangerous to Go Alone. I'm not really sure what that is. Am I missing anything?
No, just go to Broken Jars at XYZ. Check out stuff.
I think me and Justin need to make one together. We don't have an extra one.
Yeah, you guys are the lone ones out now.
Yeah.
All right, that's everything. Now say bye, everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye.